That said, I'll give you the floor, Pete, for these predictions.
Yeah, so last week or a couple weeks ago, you had a close game against Florida. You were confident all week in terms of Miami winning. It's very similar this week. You've been very confident in the outcome of the game here, but you have it as a 3-point win for Miami. I have it as a 3-score win, actually. Little spoiler alert there, as I'll get to my prediction in a second. But you have it 31-28. We kind of went through your reasoning behind it yesterday. But for those who weren't listening, 31-28, that means Florida State's covering. As I think it's 4.5-point spread right now. And that has, I think those close score predictions have people a little worried, D.
Look, I did that last week or last game, and Miami ended up beating Florida by 3 scores. It was dicey for a second, but then Miami was able to win by 3 scores. They are 3 scores better than Florida. I think they're 3 scores better on talent than FSU. My concern is just, and maybe this is PTSD from years of being bad, but even going back to when we were good, 2000, 2001, 2002, there were games like this against inferior opponents. You're not going to get through all of these games clean. And I think the energy Florida State plays with this week is going to be different than what Florida played with last week. There's just more hope there. Just a more veteran, proven quarterback. Lagway, I think, is way more talented than Castellanos, has a way higher ceiling. But Castellanos has started 24 games. He's played 30. He's got a lot of confidence. He can make plays. His team has confidence in him. He fits the system. And I just think FSU is going to come out punching. They're going to come out hot. They got the ability to make big plays in the passing game in spurts, right? With some of the speed they have, some of the perimeter run game stuff that they do. They have the ability to score 6 quickly in spurts. I think over the course of a game, force to play offense, really force to grind out drives. I don't think they lack that. They have that ability. I think they lack that ability. And then defensively, they're poor. But things happen in these kind of games. You know, there's a fumble, there's something like that. There's a muff punt. I've seen this story too many times, Pete. It's going to happen one of these games. I don't want how it doesn't. It doesn't happen. You know, this Miami team is really, really a level above. But between Florida, Florida State, and Louisville, I'm expecting one of these games to be close. And this is the game of the week. It wasn't last week like I thought it might be. So I'm saying this week it will be close. Florida State will jump on Miami. Miami's not been on the road. This is Miami's first road game. Miami has not been behind. If Miami gets behind, they will be behind. And for the first time, I think ultimately the difference in this game is going to be Carson Beck. I just think the experience of Carson Beck, the fact, and we'll talk about the matchups here in a second, the fact that FSU cannot rush the passer, ultimately Beck's experience, 28-3 as a starter, played in way more hostile environments than Doe Campbell, where you had an old guy reading a book in the upper deck a couple of years ago. I think over the course of the game, Beck will get it done, and I do think Miami is better at every single position. Could I see a world where Miami beats these guys by 3 scores? Absolutely. If FSU doesn't play well, Miami's going to beat them by 3 scores. They're the significantly better team. But I think FSU will play well, and I think they're going to challenge Miami. I think Miami's going to have to learn to deal with adversity for the first time. They'll overcome that adversity, win the game, but I think it'll be a close one.
Rock and Rant, thank you for your contribution. He says, so many Cane fam being timid, shaking my head. Man up, 37-20.
There you go. Well, Pete, give your prediction here.
So that's pretty close to mine, and I had to check my phone a minute ago to go see what I had officially said, because it was like a little bit of a weird score. But 34-16 is what I have, and I have it playing out not too dissimilar to last week. I think Florida State's offense is more explosive, obviously, than Florida's, and will give us more to think about than the Gators did. But I see it kind of playing out similarly to that game, where Miami doesn't necessarily jump out and have a 3-score lead early, but there's a nice little back and forth early. I wouldn't say that Florida gave much of a back in that first half, but those 3 possessions that Miami had in that second quarter against Florida State that they could not capitalize, that they had near midfield, with between the 40s there. I believe in this game, with this extra week, with the bye, and I think I don't know if it was, I think it was Amon earlier who maybe said this earlier this week that they kind of feel like they might be the weaker side of the ball right now, just based on what they've been hearing in the media. The defense has been spectacular. Offense hasn't been bad. Like, let's not make it something that it's not. But they feel like they can probably take it up a step. I think the execution, even though it's on the road, you would expect it to be a little bit more difficult. But I think the execution will be better in those important opportunities to finish these drives off. That it was actually really good the first 3 weeks of the season, right? Like, there was no complaints there in terms of finishing off drives for the most part, I thought. Maybe against Notre Dame, but against USF, it was flawless. But yeah, I think Miami goes into halftime here with a 10-point lead or so. Florida State battles, but I think it's a game that Miami ends up really wearing them down here in the second half, already having the lead going into halftime. And then, yeah, 34-16. That's my call.
Listen, if that's the case, has 3 scores over every team in the state, clear state champs, and that would be outstanding. And look, I think that could happen. If FSU does not perform, the talent level between these teams is profound. We talked about it. I don't think anybody aside from Deuce Robinson as part of the receiver rotation, and then, Daryl Jackson, if he's motivated, play on this team. I think their secondary is average. If you compare FSU to UF, I think talent-wise, I think UF probably has better offensive talent, quite frankly, than FSU. FSU has more. I don't even think FSU has more speed. What FSU has on offense that UF doesn't is they have a clear identity. So I think that's the advantage FSU has over Florida. Florida just has no identity on offense. They have obviously play caller problems with Napier and just confidence problems. There's no juice there. But if you go player by player, Pete, and again, I think Florida sucks. The offensive line of Florida, I think, is better than Florida State, I would say. I would say your boy Ba as an average SEC running back.
Yeah.
He's better than these other guys.
I like Ball better than, but their backs as a whole are good, I think, for what the offense is. Like, I'm not taking them over Miami's backs, obviously, but I think their backs have some ability, D.
Yeah, well, the running game has been on fire. By the way, Selbo Live 7 says Miami's looking at that spread as well in their heads. They're thinking to themselves, still didn't respect us, so I'll have to show you again. I hope that's the case, man. I do like that there's some juice for FSU, right? Media-wise, guys picking them. I don't know if these guys are out there watching ACC Network, and watching CanesInSight podcasts or anything. I mean, these guys are kind of locked in. But, I think the fact that everybody's not kissing their butts is good. I don't think motivation is going to be a factor when it comes to this game. I think it's more about, will we get tight if we take a punch? Not saying we can't. I think we will respond. I'm just saying we haven't taken a punch yet. The Notre Dame game was close, but we were in total control. Florida was close for a second, but we were in total control. We were at home in both games. So that road punch, playing from behind, will be different, but we have experienced guys. We have guys that have played in this kind of environment millions of times. Carson Beck at quarterback. So I think that ultimately will be the difference. I do think Miami will win the game, whether it's close or, look, your score. Will post-game Pete be on fire there post-game? Could happen with that 3-touchdown win. It's just going to depend on how FSU plays, I think. They're ready for this. If they don't play good, if FSU does not come ready to play in this game, I mean, how could you have any faith in Mike Norvell? I mean, what's he bringing to the table if FSU is not ready to play in this game?
Yeah, I mean, they're at home. The energy is going to be huge. It's annoying because you still feel like if this was the undefeated matchup that it could have been, the buzz nationally would have been just huge, and game day would have been there. I really believe that. It would have been hard for them to pass that up. But yeah, I do think he'll have them ready. Listen, I probably think a little bit more highly of Norvell as a coach, at least a game planning and like schematic coach, even though he's not calling the plays. I think generally, D, last year there was talent, but there were like really, really, really bad holes in the team. They've retooled, like we've said, probably an 8 to 9 win team this season. But I don't love him as like a program builder overall, as we've seen, like there's real holes in how he's put the roster together. But I think he's a pretty good coach, if that makes sense.
I
In
thought
terms of getting a good amount out of what he has.
I thought he was a good offensive coordinator, offensive coach, and then they took away the offense from him. So, we'll see on that. One NG say Miami.
Well, probably because go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Fish.
No, I was going to say probably because he was deficient on the program building and CEO side of things from what it looked like the outside.
So yeah, so focus there on that. I mean, look, Miami's a talent advantage. What's the coaching comparison look like? I mean, Mario won the Pac-12 when it was a Power 5 conference. He won at the G5 level. Best seasons that program FIU ever had. And now he's building this kind of program. Norvell has had highs at the G5 level, highs at FSU, but he's had some of the worst seasons in the history of that program. I mean, ever.
For sure.
So like, man, I'm just looking at his coaching record here at FSU, just to kind of put it in perspective. Remember, this is a team that was in the top 5 every year for like 2 decades almost. So here at Florida State, 3-6 first year, pretty bad. 5-7. Then he had the 2 winning seasons, and then he, good seasons.
What was the season before the debacle year with the playoff?
10-3.
What was the record? Yeah, I mean, look, that's
so 3.
I think if they have another 9, if they win 10, I don't know if they win 10 this year, but if they win 9 this year, you could say 3 out of the last 4 years. And he took over a really bad situation. He took over like a Manny Diaz, almost end of the Manny Diaz era situation.
Right, so 3-6, 5-7, 10-3, 13-1, 2-10. So 3 losing records out of 5. That's not good. And yeah, he took over a bad situation. They were 6-7. I mean, they went from 6-7 to 3-6. And remember, that was the year we beat him in the Hard Rock, like during the COVID season. We beat him by like 50. Mm-hmm. That was that year. So I hope they keep him. I hope happens here is Miami, puts Bell to ass. It's a 3 touchdown win, and then they go on a little run and have some fun in the ACC, because that's really kind of what they are. They're like that Louisville type of program right now. Although Louisville's more consistent. I don't think Louisville's had these 2-10, 3-6, 5-7 type years. So maybe a less consistent Louisville is what you're dealing with here. But again, it's a trap game. They can beat you.
Yeah. I think really, man, this game, it's kind of like if they come out there and do what they're supposed to do, it's almost like a breather game. Not a breather game for like you. After this game, you can reflect as a team on what you've gone through these first 5 games. Say, we went through that gauntlet, and yes, we'll see how the season plays out. Florida, it's tough to call things a gauntlet when Florida it's looking like their season might be going down a different path now. Florida State, who knows if Miami wins this game, that'll be 2 losses in a row. What happens with them? USF, I think they'll have a good year here, but week by week, each game presented a very tough situation. It did a different look. So if you get through this, I think just mentally as a team, you can say, man, we've gotten through this. You still have the whole ACC now to get through, and then you don't want to look too far in advance. But we did this. This is probably going to be tougher than what we have ahead of us. Let's continue to handle business. So I think mentally, it'll be kind of like a weight lifted off their shoulders.
100%. Hopefully not too much weight, because they gotta keep playing ball. They have the bye week.
Yeah, that's what I said. But I think you can kind of like, yeah. And I think Mario will do a good job of this. Is, hey, what we did doesn't matter, but inherently they will have it in the back of their minds.
Yeah, and look, state championship. You ever watching the show Friday Night Lights, Pete?
No.
My boy Buddy Garrity, the booster for the high school, Odessa Permian. He said, we don't win games here. We win seasons, state championships. So trying to win that state championship, establish clearly we are the dominant team in the state, and that there really is no number 2. I mean, if you go out there and you beat up FSU in Tallahassee, there is no number 2. I mean, you're talking about 1 and then a big gap, but you got to get it done. I think I think there is a big gap in terms of if they play 10 times on a neutral field, Miami's way better than all these teams in the state. But on a neutral field, you're in Tallahassee, first road game. You got to take care of business tomorrow. We'll get into some of these matchups here. But yeah, like I said earlier, my prediction 31-28. I thought it was close last game against Florida. I was dead wrong. Eventually, the better team pulled away, and it was a 3+ touchdown, 3+ score win. So we'll see what happens this week. I feel good about the Canes getting that win.
D, real quick, just want to remind everybody, I know not a home game this week. We'll be back. At the licking here soon. But if you're not going up to Tally, even if you are going up to Tally, you bring the cooler with you. Stock up on Lomello's Meat Market, fresh Wagyu beef. If you're national, delivered to your door, you can use that promo code CIS10 for 10% off your order. And if you're local here in Miami, 9810 South Dixie Highway, this is the best stuff in the business. You got the skirt steak, the Denver, the ribeyes, the New York strips. You get you see the tomahawk here on the grill, Japanese, A5, Australian Wagyu, American. And look, if you don't want to splurge on the Wagyu, you got the Prime, which is the top of the line stuff as well. And then D, I know, look, D, you are plant-based, and there are a lot of people maybe listening to the show who might be as well. So you have the salmon poke, the tuna poke already chopped up for you. They're fresh, and you can take home with you. And yeah, man, Lomellos.com. Best in the business, where Mario gets his stuff, man. This is where the recruits, what they're eating when they're here on campus. So check them out.
Authentic Miami, pure Miami. We're not, they can they can compete nationally, but they are Miami operations. So shout out to Lomellos and shout out to another Miami operation. You hear Canes Cat saying in the chat, everybody go to Duffy's Tavern tomorrow. Standing room only at Duffy's. Let's go crazy. The home of the Hurricanes, Duffy's Tavern. Me and Pete were out there yesterday. There you see it. I mean, that's how you get down there at Duffy's. This was before the Florida game, I believe, or this was actually before Notre Dame. And it's going to be going insane for FSU. This place has been the site for so many FSU games. You know that truck's going to be there. They're going to have the flags up. Pete, take a picture. Let me know what Wayne the Pain writes this week for FSU on the board. A tradition. This goes back decades, man. So if you want to be at the authentic home of the Hurricanes, you see that sign. You see how old school this place is. Duffy's Tavern. The best part about it, all that tradition, all that history, but they got new ownership who is bringing in new ideas, freshening up the menu while at the same time keeping the classics, keeping the old school feel. It's not sterile. It's not sterile and just the same as everything else. It still feels like Duffy's Tavern, but updated. Bring your family, bring your friends. It is the spot. It's Pete's home away from home. It is the home of the Hurricanes. Duffy's Tavern. Shout out to all these guys out here. And Saturday, they got games on all day long. Probably want to get there early if you want to get a seat for the UMFSU game. Is going to be crazy. But yeah, post up. They got all the games from noon all the way until nighttime. Shout out to Duffy's Tavern. Pete, we're here with your boy, Ghost and Yvonne Donaldson, Johnny